Now, Slee, I remember when this story hit the headlines and it was reacted to across the country with great concern. But Acting Judge Pete Johnson expressing that he wasn't satisfied that the state had proved its case, and also pointed to the credibility of several witnesses because of contradictions in their testimonies. What happened?
Certainly. The judgment today, the reading of the judgment started around 10 a.m. this morning and concluded literally about 5 to 10 minutes ago. And Judge Pete Johnson really going through step by step as to why it is he has decided to acquit Johannes Molefe on all charges. He was facing 3 counts of rape as well as 11 counts of sexual assault. He found that the state failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Molefe had actually assaulted and raped these young girls who were aged between 5 and 13. Now, I'm going to quickly take you to Steve Mabona, who's actually about to address the media and give us the department's reaction. Thank you for joining us, Steve. An acquittal, what does this mean for the department moving forward?
Look, as the department, it's quite a sad moment for us, but we need to respect the judgment because there was a lot of things that the judges indicated, talking about comedy of errors that have been committed by the police, prosecution, Teddy Bear during their process, including our officials. Because the judge was very scathing on the prosecution. I mean, he went to an extent of, going through the code of conduct on how prosecutors need to conduct themselves. Because he went to an extent of saying they probably elicited, some evidence or statements from the children. So quite sad for us, and it's an indication that when coming to training our educators, we need to do more, and we've already actually started with the process of making sure that we going to train our employees at our schools on when they see or when such cases are reported, on what is it that they need to do. Because the judge was very clear that the process of taking learners into the same classroom and asking them same question without even the privacy, it was an issue for the judge. So all those elements, we need to go back, as the department to say, when you receive such a complaint, what is it that you need to do? How are you going to report it? Who's going to be taking charge? And when you involve the police, who's going to be doing that so that you don't contaminate the case? Because the judge was very scathing to say the case was contaminated, there's contradictions, things that were said to parents and to the educators and to the investigating officers. So it was quite a dissatisfaction coming from all stakeholders who were involved in making sure that they investigate this case, properly. So for us, we respect the judgment, and we will then have to work hard just to make sure that we train our employees on how to manage cases like this. And it's quite a sad moment, especially for parents who've been going through this traumatic experience since it started, but we've been there. I mean, there was a task team that we formed, which were supporting the parents, making sure that we update them on the latest developments, go to an extent of availing transportation where we had to do that. The support has been overwhelming, coming from our social workers, coming from our education sector to say, this is what we are doing for parents. But we had to make sure that we support parents. And as the MEC has already apologized, to parents on what has transpired there, because we are quite clear that we have failed the children on this happening in our environment, and hence we are saying we need to make sure that we train our employees on how to do this. But we are happy that there is a process of screening which has been enhanced to all our patrollers. How are they screened before they are appointed or they are brought into our sector? So that at least it's a positive to say we won't have people that are not screened or properly, and we took that responsibility away from the department of appointing patrollers back to the Department of Community Safety so that they can then manage that process for us.
Thank you so much, Steve. I, Marcel, want to quickly take you to a representative of the parents who have been going through this trial and this process. They were in the courtroom when that judgment was read out. I understand, of course, I saw some tears, some disappointment from the parents. How were you feeling?
Parents are very disappointed, and above being disappointed, they are very devastated by the judgment made by the court, and we feel that the court was very unfair to the victims, because I understand there are processes, there are technicalities there, but then I think it was not proven beyond any doubt, because the judge concentrated more on the errors. He even mentioned a comedy of errors that took place. But then if there was an error that was committed, why should the victims be penalized because of the errors that were done, be it by the police or whatever the case might be? But on the same breath, we are very disappointed by the conduct of the police. And I want to emphasize this, to say from the beginning of the case, there were so many discrepancies that were done. We even raised this with the South African Police Service to say, number one, what criteria did you use to identify the investigating officer? And there was no clear indication. All what they said is that they identified him because he was on standby at the time. And a case of this nature was supposed to have been given to a person who with great experience, particularly on sexual offences cases, because most of the discrepancies, that is what they led to the collapse of this case.
So you do feel failed by the justice system today?
Definitely, we were failed by the justice system. And I mean, we could have taken the law into our own hands as community members, but we respected the law of this country. That is why we did not go to that extent. But now, if we are failed by the justice system, then I'm not sure what is going to happen after this.
All right. I understand. I'm sure the community of Orlando East will be very angry to hear this news.
Yeah, the community will be very angry. And I pity the people that are staying in that house, because the accused does not have a house. And the outrage in the community, because after this I'm going to have a public meeting where I am going to give them a verdict. So heaven knows what is going to happen after this.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Marcel, that is one of the family members. They are planning, in fact, on appealing what's happened and transpired today, and as you've heard, it may not end well in the streets of Orlando East as the news goes back that Johannes Molefe has been acquitted on all charges.
Telling comments there from one of the parents of one of those victims in this case. Our reporters Lindelo Masekane live for us from the Protea Magistrates Court in Soweto.